I got married, married my high school sweetheart, and we easily got pregnant and were devastated when our first child was born with a disability, and he lived 12 days.
It wouldn't be the last time Susan Scotton would feel the sting of losing a child to a birth defect. Her second son died at 2½ on December 22nd, 1986, just 3 days before Christmas.
I had a hard time having any faith, any hopes. I couldn't have a healthy child. I was angry.
You think pregnancy, baby, you think happy, and I didn't feel that way. And then I felt guilty because I felt the way I felt.
Melissa Coles was an unmarried, poor, and pregnant 18-year-old who felt she only had 2 options.
I was scared out of my mind, and I was so conflicted that I could keep him. It wasn't too late. And the other, do what is easiest for everyone. As I'm walking in, my heart's racing. And the doctor came in and washed his hands, put on his gloves, and he didn't speak to me. He didn't tell me what he was going to do. He didn't ask me how I was. Didn't explain anything with the procedure. I think every negative emotion that someone could feel.
At the same time, 800 miles away, another woman was holding on to the hope of adopting a newborn.
I just prayed for a healthy child, for the right thing to work out.
After the death of her second son, Susan's husband left, and she swore she'd never get pregnant again. Now remarried, she and her husband Jimmy had tried for 2 years to adopt.
There were so many letdowns, and the process was difficult, but I kept saying, we can do this. God's helping us, and we just need to stick with it.
Back in Indiana, a doctor was mere seconds from aborting Melissa's baby.
Right as his hands went in to touch me, his glove hit my left leg. I heard this voice say, "It's not too late, get up." I know it's the Lord, 100%. I just said, I can't do this. The doctor gets up, rolls his eyes, rips his gloves off, and leaves the room and left me.
Having decided to save her baby's life, Melissa still faced uncertainty. Then later, a social worker gave her an alternative she hadn't considered: adoption.
I wanted him. And I think if he was with someone that was more like me, then he would have been raised more like how I would have raised him.
After finding an agency, Melissa received dozens of letters from potential parents. The one that grabbed her attention was from Susan and Jimmy.
And then I just fell in love with Susan. She starts, telling me her story. And she'd been through a lot of pain herself.
But it was a phone conversation that sealed the deal.
Susan, I said, how do you bait your hook down there?
When we go fishing, we use a cockahoe minnow, and you have to put the hook through the eye of the minnow. I said, and I always bait my own hook.
And I just said, congratulations, you're a mom, because I knew at that point she was going to be the mom that was going to take him fishing and teach him the kind of things I would teach him.
In December 1993, Melissa gave birth to a healthy baby boy. She was given the choice to hold her son before she gave him up.
I just knew that holding him could make it hard and harder to let go. But I'm glad I did. He didn't cry. He was just peaceful.
Meanwhile, in Louisiana, Jimmy got the call.
I was excited, and so much was going through my mind, I almost forgot to call Susan and tell her that the baby was born.
It was December 22nd, 1993, 7 years to the day, that Susan lost her second son.
I get to the phone and he's like, "It's a boy." And I'm like, "Okay, is it real? Is it really real?"
They named him David James after Susan's father, who had passed 9 months earlier. They held him for the first time on Christmas Eve.
I am crying, happy tears are just flowing. He's beautiful, he's just perfect, it's so joyful. And we walk out the hospital, Jimmy and I together, and it starts to snow. Now, from Louisiana, that is just like tears from heaven, just joy, just the ultimate joy. It was like, wow.
Melissa later married and started her own family. In the coming years, not a day passed that she didn't think about the son she gave up.
Deep down, I knew I did the right thing. I knew he was safe, and I knew that they were giving him everything I couldn't.
David grew up in a loving Christian home. And yes, spent lots of time fishing with his mom and dad. He always knew he was adopted, and in high school joined a pro-life group. At 18, he reached out to Melissa, and the two agreed to meet. By then, a documentary team had picked up their story and was there to film their reunion.
My heart was racing so fast, and I couldn't get out the door fast enough. So I wanted to get out there and hug him no matter what. I just wanted to feel that hug and feel that connection, and it was a beautiful moment.
There was something he wanted Melissa to know.
She made a brave decision and a courageous decision that wasn't easy. That was the whole reason that we were coming there, was to thank her and reaffirm her that her decision was the right decision.
I felt a lot more freed in my spirit hearing that.
Since then, David has finished law school, and he and Melissa have joined in a common goal. Through speaking engagements and the documentary I Lived on Parker Avenue, they work to inform women about adoption and encourage them to choose life.
And knowing that for every 100 abortions, there's only 2 adoptions facilitated in this country, we really had a unique opportunity to share the adoption option. And I think that was God's calling for us. God played a role in all of this. The chain of events is just too amazing for me not to think that.
Happy at the same time. God has had his hand in this from the get-go, and he carried me through. He molded everything.